top 10 countries with highest national debts in 2024? The global landscape of national debt paints a complex picture of economic challenges and fiscal responsibility. Across the top 10 countries, debt levels soar into the trillions, reflecting decades of governmental spending, economic policies, and geopolitical factors. Leading the pack is the United States, whose national debt exceeds $28 trillion, dwarfing that of any other nation. Decades of military expenditure, social programs, and tax policies have contributed to this staggering figure, compounded by economic downturns and financial crises. Despite efforts to rein in spending, the debt continues to climb, raising concerns about future generations' economic prospects. Japan follows closely behind, with a debt exceeding $12 trillion. While its debt-to-GDP ratio is among the highest globally, Japan's unique economic situation, characterized by low interest rates and significant domestic holdings of government bonds, mitigates some of the risks associated with such massive debt. China, the world's second-largest economy, faces its own debt challenges, with a national debt surpassing $11 trillion. Rapid economic growth, infrastructure development, and stimulus measures have fueled this increase, although China's debt remains lower than many developed nations relative to GDP. India, Brazil, Italy, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and Canada round out the top 10, each facing their own set of economic circumstances and debt-related concerns. From political instability to demographic challenges, the factors driving these countries' debt burdens are diverse and multifaceted. As the world grapples with the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, many countries have seen their debt levels soar to unprecedented heights. Stimulus packages, healthcare spending, and social welfare programs have strained government budgets, leading to increased borrowing and mounting debt obligations. The long-term implications of such massive debt burdens are a subject of intense debate among economists, policymakers, and the public. While some argue that high levels of debt are necessary to stimulate economic growth and mitigate crises, others warn of the risks of fiscal insolvency, inflation, and economic stagnation. Addressing the global debt crisis will require coordinated efforts on a national and international scale. Fiscal discipline, structural reforms, and long-term planning will be essential to ensure sustainable economic growth and stability for future generations. As the world continues to grapple with the challenges posed by mounting debt, finding viable solutions will be paramount to securing a prosperous future for all. Finding viable solutions to the global debt crisis requires a multifaceted approach that addresses underlying economic challenges, promotes fiscal responsibility, and fosters sustainable development. Here are some key strategies that policymakers and stakeholders can consider. Fiscal discipline. Governments must prioritize fiscal discipline and prudent budget management to ensure that spending aligns with revenue. This may involve implementing spending controls, reducing waste and inefficiency, and streamlining government programs. Structural reforms. Structural reforms aimed at improving productivity, efficiency, and competitiveness can help stimulate economic growth and reduce reliance on debt-financed stimulus measures. This may include labor market reforms, tax reforms, and measures to enhance the business environment. Debt restructuring. In cases where debt levels are unsustainable, debt restructuring may be necessary to provide relief to indebted countries. This could involve renegotiating terms with creditors, extending repayment schedules, or reducing interest rates to alleviate debt burdens. Promotion of economic growth. Sustainable economic growth is essential for reducing debt-to-GDP ratios over the long term. Governments can promote growth through investments in infrastructure, education, healthcare, and technology, as well as by fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. Revenue generation. Increasing government revenue through fair and equitable taxation can help reduce reliance on borrowing to fund expenditures. This may involve closing loopholes, combating tax evasion and avoidance, and implementing progressive tax policies. Social safety nets. Strengthening social safety nets can help mitigate the impact of austerity measures on vulnerable populations while promoting social cohesion and stability. This may include expanding access to healthcare, education, and social assistance programs. Transparency and accountability. Enhancing transparency and accountability in public financial management is crucial for restoring public trust and confidence in government institutions. This may involve strengthening oversight mechanisms, improving budget transparency, and combating corruption. International cooperation. Addressing the global debt crisis requires coordinated action and cooperation among countries, international organizations, and financial institutions. This may involve debt relief initiatives, multilateral lending programs, and coordinated efforts to address systemic issues affecting global financial stability. Long-term planning. Governments must adopt a long-term perspective in their fiscal policymaking to ensure sustainable debt management and economic stability. This may involve developing comprehensive debt management strategies, conducting regular debt sustainability analyses, and engaging in scenario planning to anticipate future challenges. Investment in sustainable development. Investing in sustainable development goals, such as poverty reduction, environmental sustainability, and social inclusion, can help create a more resilient and equitable world. This may involve redirecting resources from debt servicing to critical development priorities and aligning debt-financed investments with sustainable development objectives. By implementing these strategies and working together collaboratively, governments, policymakers, and stakeholders can take meaningful steps towards addressing the global debt crisis and securing a prosperous future for all. International coordination. Enhanced coordination among nations is essential to address the interconnected nature of the global economy and financial markets. Through forums such as the G20, IMF, and World Bank, countries can collaborate on debt relief initiatives, debt restructuring agreements, and coordinated fiscal stimulus measures to mitigate the impact of economic downturns. Debt sustainability assessments. Regular debt sustainability assessments can help countries identify vulnerabilities, assess risks, and develop tailored strategies to manage their debt burdens effectively. These assessments should take into account factors such as debt levels, debt service ratios, external vulnerabilities, and macroeconomic conditions to ensure that debt remains sustainable over the long term. Debt transparency and reporting. Improved transparency and reporting standards are essential to enhance the monitoring and oversight of government debt. Governments should adhere to internationally recognized debt reporting standards, such as those established by the IMF and World Bank, and provide timely and accurate information on their debt levels, terms, and conditions. Inclusive debt relief initiatives. Debt relief initiatives should be inclusive and equitable, taking into account the needs and circumstances of low-income and heavily indebted countries. This may involve the implementation of debt cancellation programs, debt for development swaps, and concessional lending facilities to provide relief to the most vulnerable nations. Debt management capacity building. Strengthening debt management capacity in developing countries is critical to ensure effective debt management practices and reduce the risk of debt distress. Technical assistance and capacity building support should be provided to help countries improve their debt management frameworks, debt negotiation skills, and debt sustainability analysis capabilities. Promotion of responsible borrowing and lending. Both borrowers and lenders play a role in ensuring sustainable debt levels. Governments should adopt responsible borrowing practices, including conducting rigorous cost-benefit analyses of borrowing decisions, diversifying sources of financing, and avoiding excessive reliance on short-term or high-cost debt instruments. Similarly, lenders should adhere to responsible lending practices, including conducting due diligence assessments, providing transparent loan terms. Investment in economic diversification and resilience. Investing in economic diversification and resilience is essential to reduce countries' vulnerability to external shocks and mitigate the risk of debt distress. Governments should prioritize investments in productive sectors, such as agriculture, manufacturing, and services, to promote economic growth, job creation, and export diversification. Inclusive growth and poverty reduction. Addressing income inequality and promoting inclusive growth are essential components of sustainable debt management. Governments should implement policies and programs that promote equitable access to education, healthcare, and social services. By reducing poverty and improving social inclusion, countries can build more resilient and cohesive societies that are better equipped to manage debt and achieve sustainable development. Climate change adaptation and mitigation. Climate change poses significant risks to economic stability and debt sustainability. Governments should prioritize investments in climate change adaptation and mitigation measures, such as renewable energy infrastructure, promotion of good governance and anti-corruption measures. Subscribe to this channel to build values.